Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
Yo, back again. Episode 9. I'm struggling with my setup here. So if anybody's having an issue or watching me, if anybody's watching on YouTube going, he's lost the fucking plot. Having issues with a few technical difficulties, but we're here. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for changing the time. Again, for anybody who's watching, I need to get my haircut later, and you will definitely see that I need to get my haircut. Remember back at the very start last year when haircuts weren't a thing because of COVID? You used to just give me shit flat out for my hair. Yeah, thank you. But anyway,
your hair would be like all the way up, like spiked and like all over the place, and then like you get all like sensitive about it. So.
That's why I wear a hat all the time now because of your comments. So I'm Ben Canning.
And I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Your Health. So what's going on? What's the update?
Not much. My shirt's drenched in sweat right now. It's still drying out. It was a good cardio this morning at Orange Theory. They've been murdering me lately. I don't know what's up with whoever plans the schedules there, but they've been evil. So today was just a solid 23-minute block where you're running on hills and pushing yourself. So I was going like 10 miles an hour at a 4% incline, then 8 miles an hour, and it's like, it's good workout, but I'm ready to take a nap, that's for sure. But things are good. Good.
We obviously, I've been thinking obviously about what we were talking about last night, about what you want to sort of introduce with about the, I'll not ruin it, but what I want to say is, because obviously this is probably a change in terms of like how we think about different diets, and I sort of thought after you said earlier on you want to sort of let everybody know, I think we need to first recognize that this isn't going to be, it's not a solution to a fat loss problem. You're doing it for a different reason. So you're doing it in terms of optimizing brain function, digestive health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll leave it over to you on that one.
Yeah, so we obviously talk about, hey, diets are very difficult to do unless you have a framework to come out of, right? So if you're going to do a diet like keto, for example, or, some people make keto their entire life, and that's perfectly fine too, if you can do that. Most people can't. Like, it has like a 98% or something crazy, fail rate. And then people would basically come off of that, and then they have nothing to catch on to, right? I did keto for 6 months, and, I gained weight on keto, right? And maybe I wasn't doing it right. Maybe I was pretty strict on what I was doing, but I wasn't focusing on calories in versus calories out. Now, I was listening to the Huberman Labs podcast, which, I heavily recommend taking a look at. It's just like literally breaks down the science of your body. He's a neurobiologist at Stanford. They do, medical studies, research studies, everything else. And it really breaks down in a way that anybody can understand, what's kind of going on in your body. In this last episode that was on, and I'll get the episode number for everybody.
Put it in the show notes. I'm actually going to start taking notes, because sometimes afterwards I'm like, what did we say that we would include in that?
Getting all formal here.
Yeah.
It's actually episode 41, which is effects of fasting and time restricted eating on fat loss and health. And what I really liked about the podcast is, his name's Dr. Andrew Huberman, and he went into the benefits of why intermittent fasting can help you. And he went into some of the scientific studies of what the new research that's coming out. A lot of this is new, like July 2021, like new studies that are coming out on the impact both in mice and humans of certain things that can help out. And, what Huberman explains at the very beginning is, listen, at the end of the day, this is still calories in versus calories out, which is the most important aspect of this weight loss journey. So you need to understand what you're putting in your body and your output in order for you to, if you want to lose weight or to gain weight. So you either need to be in a caloric surplus or a caloric deficit. And so he goes into the specifics of a lot of this. And what was interesting about this latest podcast and intermittent fasting that has me intrigued, and I actually started intermittent fasting yesterday. And I got this app called Zero. It's free. There's a paid version, but you don't need a paid version. But it gives you your time windows of when you can eat. Now, what Huberman was explaining is, basically the benefits of intermittent fasting. And what they did is they did some research on, and they did do some research on fat loss as well, on what happens when your body is in a fasted state. And interesting enough, there's like 80% of your genes is what we are called, are part of what's called a circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm is basically your body's internal clock. And most of our internal clocks, have different things that happen. So in the morning, for example, if you get bright light, it's going to increase dopamine and a lot of other things to increase, your activity level and start to wake you up. That's why, I have this little mood light, right here that if you're looking at the thing, it just looks all bright. Getting some early light exposure can help very similarly to what coffee can do. What's interesting with intermittent fasting, though, is 80% of our genes work off of this circadian rhythm. And with intermittent fasting, there's some very big benefits to production of certain types of things in your body that allow you to focus more, that promote more energy. And there's some science behind this too. If you go back to our caveman and cavewomen days, we didn't always have access to food. And so if we were in a starving state where our body needed food, if we were basically dwindling down and dying, we would not be able to catch our food and survive. So our body kind of goes in overdrive and says, listen, we need to be at kind of max capacity here to hunt our food, to get our food. And so it makes you a lot more sharp. And so with intermittent fasting, the Huberman rule is, don't eat anything an hour or two upon waking, and don't eat anything 2 to 3 hours prior to bed. And that's basically the basic concept with it. Now, there are different time windows. Now, the most recent study that I think came out either in July or April, did an 8-hour feeding window, which is you can only eat for 8 hours at a time. And there's actually, he goes to the basics of it, which is kind of funny, or why they decided to do an 8-hour window. And it's the spouses of, the significant other of them that caused them to only study 8 hours, because they didn't want to spend more than 8 hours in a lab, because they were spending too much time away from home. Because you have to, when mice are doing this, for example, you have to make sure that the mice aren't storing food in their mouth. They're not, hiding food in different locations. You really need to have an accurate study. So they did an 8-hour study on that, and it had a substantial improvement on metabolism, on lean muscle mass, on fat loss, on a number of other areas. But most importantly, it has a lot of benefits on your digestive tract, giving your digestive tract time to recover, your alertness, everything else that comes along with it. So I decided to give it a shot. Now I'm obviously only day one in. I've done intermittent fasting before. What was interesting to note, though, is that there's these 1-hour feeding windows that people do that has been very popular in the intermittent fasting side. And so you may only be able to eat for like 4 hours, for example, or 3 hours or 2 hours. And they basically just get one big meal in. And what the study showed with that was that there was an increase in weight for those types of endeavors. Your body's basically trying to hoard food because it's starving so much. So there's definitely a balance between this and what you're doing. So for me, I'm trying it to see how I respond energy-wise, how I feel throughout the day. And I was already kind of doing this to some extent. My biggest weakness was at night. I would eat, prior to going to bed. So last night I stopped eating at 7:15. My window is going to be 7:30 to 9:30 basically as my window for intermittent fasting. And I want to see what it does to my body. Keep track of it, see how I'm feeling, and start to hopefully build things out. And maybe it'll be something I use as a staple. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's like I said. You're using it as a tool in a different way. And, I don't have experience specifically with intermittent fasting, but I used to, and I think we spoke about this before, that I used to do like extended fasting, and I would have fast for 36 hours once a week. So I would have had my last meal on a Tuesday and then had my first meal on a Thursday. So that whole period through Tuesday evening, Wednesday all day, and then into Thursday morning, I wouldn't have eaten anything. I literally would have just had water, no caffeine, no anything else. And, you're talking about brain function, and you're talking about like cognitive function overall. Once we sort of got past lunchtime on a Wednesday, and I found that I was getting hungry at certain times because it was time to eat, like it was my regular time to eat. But once that passed, it was absolutely fine. But on a Wednesday afternoon, my productivity levels were absolutely through the roof. Like I was on a different level in terms of like thinking, thought process, the shit that I get done. And yes, okay, I was using it to sort of restrict calories over the week again as a bit of an experiment, but the benefits that I got from it, from a cognitive function, energy levels, it was absolutely incredible. And I always would have thought, come Thursday morning, I would have been starving, but I was fine. Do you know what I mean? It was just my regular, like, okay, right, it's time to have my breakfast or whatever else. So it's definitely good on that front. And it makes a lot of sense because your body's not using any energy to digest food. You have more energy and there's more blood flow around your brain and things like that. And that's why it works. So I want to say I'm going to join you, but I don't know if I can fully commit to it yet. But I mean, obviously you'll keep me posted. I think your biggest struggle is going to be fitting 3,500 calories into an 8-hour window.
Well, I think I can. I did it yesterday, and it's funny because I need to plan better because it was like I had my normal meals usually range between 350 calories to 500 calories. It's kind of my normal meals, and I'll just space multiple meals throughout the day, and then have like snacks like Greek yogurts and things like that throughout the day to kind of get the protein intake that I need, or protein shakes or whatever if I'm supplementing. And last night I ate 1,000-calorie dinner. And then I had a bowl of cereal afterwards to get the calories in that I needed to get. But I do want to, I'm going to make a conscious effort to have, less, corn syrup or, processed sugars, those, like simple sugars, simple carbohydrates, and focus more on, complex carbohydrates and things like that to see how I react to that as well. So, taking less of the glucose side of it out and focusing more on that, minus recovery. I'll use like dextrose and stuff like that for recovery. But I just want to kind of tweak it and play around with it a little bit. We're always trying to improve and optimize our bodies in any way that we can. And there's some good benefits to intermittent fasting. They're talking about the longevity aspects of things where, it's just phenomenal in all of your organs. It helps with liver function, helps with kidney function, helps with, cardiovascular. There's a lot of great benefits that they're finding out now with intermittent fasting that, I'm interested in just giving it a shot to see if I can stick with. And I think, Huberman put it really well is, you need to fit a schedule that you can make kind of your life, right? And he said that, if you're doing intermittent fasting for 5 days, and then on the weekends, it's just a shit show. You're drinking a bunch of booze until midnight. He's like, that's not going to be very helpful for you. There's some studies there that show basically if you break that cycle, it takes several days to get back into it. So you're only getting maybe 1 day benefit of intermittent fasting, which is gonna have a major impact on your performance or your body or things like that. So
get all your beers in before 9:30.
Get your beers in before 9:30 or 8:30, right? I might have to adjust my window a little bit so that maybe it's at 9:30, and then so I can get a couple hard seltzers in before bed. But it's just something I'm experimenting with and playing around with, and I'm not using it as a method for weight loss. I'm using it as a method to see how I feel to optimize my body and can I have more energy production, more clarity. Things to help me out as I'm going through, and why not? It's just a minor tweak really in what I'm doing currently today. I just got to figure out how not to eat 1,000-calorie dinner at every night. So
yeah, well, I mean, obviously you'll keep us posted. Like I said, I'll listen to the podcast, I'll listen to the science behind it, and I'll see if I want to commit. But we're not here to talk about that at all, or food in any way, shape, or form. We're here to talk about wearable tech and tracking devices. And I get this quite a lot, and maybe you're the same. People ask me, what's the best device? Should I get Whoop? Should I get Oura Ring? Should I do blah, 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 blah? So I think, number one, what we want to sort of touch on is the benefits of tracking the data, what data to look for, and then our own sort of personal experience with each device. I think between both of us, we have covered the majority of them. So I think we can delve quite well into that. I want to caveat this one with, I'm not wearing any wearable tech at the minute because I feel like sometimes it's good to take a break from it. And I spoke to Matt earlier on to see if he had any sort of insight as to, a way to go with this. And he said the same thing. Sometimes he just takes a break because we can get so caught up in what the data and what the information says that we sort of neglect what our own internal computer says. So I would find myself wake up and think, I slept really well there, that was really good. Then I would check the Oura Ring app and it would tell me that I had like a 48% sleep score, and I'm like, fuck, I feel awful, fuck this. So you need to sort of be able to detach yourself from it and recognize what the data is. And if you are going to track both, I would say try and track the human side first and track, whatever the wearable tech device is as well. So you have data from both to see if they're in line. If they are skewed for a long period of time, I would just take, a week off wearing them and then go back to it. But as you know, data is a big part of what we do, and it's a big part of the check-in process and everything that we look at. And there's a lot of things that we can look at that sort of give us a guide to how your body's respond to different things, when we should pull back on certain things, when we should push on certain things. So it does have its place, but I wouldn't base your entire life and how you feel on what the numbers and what the information says.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to hit on before we get into the data aspects of things. One thing that's been very successful for me, keeping me in this program, is the check-in sheets that you have, right? Because I feel like having somebody analyze that for me is a way of a spot check to say, hey, are things going well or not? And I think that kind of third-party validation for me has been really helpful, because I haven't missed one check-in, minus, I was on vacation like 1 week or something like that, and I still get my workouts in every single day. I find a Planet Fitness to go set the lunk alarms off with or whatever. But
you just go to Planet Fitness to get kicked out of it.
Yeah, dropping the weights. But no offense to anybody who goes to Planet Fitness. It's a great affordable place to go to, and they have a lot of great stuff. It's just for the amount of weights that I throw up, it's not beneficial. But
not somewhere you want to do a 505-pound deadlift.
No, it is not, especially as the amount of screaming that goes into that one. But for me, the data that we input and the check-in process is kind of like a staple for me now, because for us, we check in every Wednesday, and I do my photos. So I take a picture of myself front, and then I do from behind. Sometimes I'll throw some like Hulk pictures in there, or Thor arms, or things like that, to spice it up. But at the end of the day, that process where I'm inputting that data, I'm inputting my calories and macros. How did I feel that day? You get into the measurements of, hey, have my biceps grown? Has my waist shrunk? What are my quads and my hips looking like? Shoulders, etc. And then you get into the, aspects around what these trackers have, from recovery, sleep, strain, heart rate variability, things to that effect. And it paints a whole picture of how you're doing as an individual, right? One, are you putting the work in to change yourself? And two, how are you responding to that? And are we doing too much or too little? And I think, the stuff you get from the wearables are fantastic data to understand, but I think you hit it on the head of, you still need to listen to yourself, right? Last week is a great example of that. There was, we're doing the Jeff Nippard power building program, which is a combination of powerlifting and bodybuilding. So you hit, really low reps with really high weights from a muscle fiber building perspective. So you're building your power muscles that can lift the heavy weights, and then you're doing hypertrophy, where you're doing more lighter weights with higher reps, in order to increase the size of the muscle. And so there's it's weird with Nippard's program. So like some days you have like 6 days straight, some days you have like 3 days, and there's a suggested rest day. And then it goes into the rest. Well, last week there was a suggested rest day, and I missed it. And I went through the whole week, and it was a really, really brutal week of lifting. And, Friday night, I messaged Ben. I'm like, listen, dude, like, I can feel it. Like, I need like 2 days just to unwind and relax, because my body is telling me it's jacked. Even though my Whoop band and everything else, all my data was saying, hey, I'm good, I knew that I was not good. I knew my muscle aching, the soreness, my hip was aching. So I knew it was time to take a little bit of a pause in order not to hurt myself, right? So I think the data is really important, but I also think listening to yourself is really important. But to me, I'll be honest with you, I have not missed 1 day wearing my Whoop in over a year, right? It's straight consecutively. There's not 1 day I haven't taken it off. It's always on me, no matter what, unless I'm taking a shower or going in the water. Even though it's waterproof, I take it off. I don't want it to like get stinky or something like that. But it's one of those things where it's become a staple thing for me to wear, because it gives me a nice framework for me to look at to say, hey, I really sucked ass at sleeping tonight. I really need to catch up tomorrow. Or, hey, my recovery is looking really good. And I'm feeling pretty good. I know I can push myself hard, right? These are the kind of decisions that it helps you kind of craft to make so that you can really optimize your body.
Yeah, I think whenever I wore Whoop, my issue was I wasn't listening to what it was saying. I was like, recovery 13%, brilliant. I'm just going to go and train here anyway. So I wasn't actually listening to it, and that was maybe one of the main issues that I had with it. From a data perspective, and what it tracks, it's great. And obviously it has the leaderboard function and everything like that, and I can't fault it in that way, but I just don't think I was using it in the way it was intended. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't using that to go, okay, right, well, maybe I will pull back, or sleep was bad, or whatever it was. So I think that was where I fell down on that front.
Yeah.
The data side of things, like I said, with the check-in sheet, I think it's a good thing to note, because there's things that I will look for that you maybe won't. And, we've had this before in terms of whether it's times of high stress, and I can look at your resting heart rate and your heart rate variability, and those numbers would be skewed. And I would put it back to you, look, have you had a stressful week or whatever it is? Maybe it's time to pull back from the high intensity cardio stuff, because that's just an additional stress in your body. So all these, like you said, it just paints a bigger picture. It's rather than just, okay, there's your food, there's your training, see you next week. If things aren't moving in the right direction, sometimes there is a reason, and we need to, we can address that whenever we have all the data in front of us. And I think the other thing about it is, and I sort of try to get this message across whenever we have our initial coaching call, if I get you on a bad day, or equally well, if I get you on a good day with your check-in, I'm going to get the emotion side of it. Whereas if I'm looking at numbers and data and information, and okay, you look, this week I feel shit, and I had a shit, and my training wasn't, and blah, blah, blah. But I'm looking at numbers going, okay, well, your measurements are moving in the right direction. Your weight is maybe held, but in terms of like all the rest of the markers, everything's moving in the right direction. So let's keep going. Or if it matches what you said, then I can go, right, okay, well, let's adjust this, or let's change that. And that's why I like that sort of fuller picture. And I know it is a pain in the ass. Like, I mean, it's a spreadsheet that has like 82 boxes or something, which is a lot, but it has developed over time, and everything is in there for a reason. And I think I know from doing people's check-ins, the more information, the more data that I have, the better I'm able to make adjustments and make tweaks to whatever it is that we're doing.
Well, for me, the spreadsheet, once you get used to it, takes me like 10 minutes, right? And that's a 10-minute commitment to having somebody validate what I'm doing and making sure I'm on the right track. And so I have zero issue, going through MyFitnessPal, or going through, Whoop, or looking at the data and filling everything out to ensure that, hey, we get a nice spot check. And what I like about it is, we're taking, weight daily, right? So, and you're taking, what I like about it is you take the averages, right? You're looking at the heart rate variability averages. You're looking at, the strain averages. So, you have a certain benchmark and baseline for that week in comparison to other weeks in the future. So, when, you see one day, well, hey, I might have spiked up 2 pounds, but in, the overall net week, I'm down a pound, or, whatever it ends up being. Well, that just means I had just some undigested food that day that, I was having some digestive tract issues or something. So, it's a great way to really kind of look at the data and say, let's make adjustments to this plan. Hey, we can push this harder, or if you have the time to go and do it, or maybe we add 1,000 more steps, which equates to X amount of calories per week. There's little fine-tuned adjustments that you can make based on understanding the data that you have. And I think wearable trackers and the technology is getting substantially more better as time goes along. There's new ones that I'm really excited about. They haven't made mainstream yet. The technology is just being developed, but it's looking like next year, almost all of the wearable tech's going to have it, is the active blood glucose monitoring, right? So you can have a wearable that will show you at any given time what your blood glucose is, and when you have glucose spikes and things to that effect. So for me, if I'm doing intermittent fasting, that's going to be hugely beneficial, because I want to understand, hey, does sucralose or Splenda, or things, there's the studies are still kind of out on this one, on whether or not those actually spike blood sugar levels, and if that breaks a fast. So, like at night, I like having, there's these things called Bang energy drinks, which I have one of them, caffeine free, and all it has is essential amino acids and CoQ10 and some creatine. And I'll drink that at night, just kind of like my treat. It's sweet, probably, it has some obviously artificial sweeteners in it, which aren't the greatest for you, especially from a gut microbiome perspective. But it's a nice little treat. But if it's going to break my fast, it's not worth it, right? So, it's one of those things where I'd love to get more into the blood glucose side. But the wearable trackers, looking at your heart rate, blood pressure is one of those ones that are going to be out soon. Some of them already have it. Looking at your resting heart rate, respiratory rates, all of those things are great things to track and kind of baseline, and then incorporate into what you're looking at to optimize your body.
Yeah, the blood glucose is a good point. So I did study this before. Like I tried the wearable blood glucose monitor. So you basically inject this thing into the back of your arm and you have it at all times and you check the app. I know that Heat's doing it at the minute. It was interesting because I do check my fasted blood glucose. So I'll do that every morning just to make sure that my body's handling food and everything's in line with that. But obviously having it sort of live data to see how your body responds to different things. Now, me being the idiot that I am, sometimes I almost saw it as a game. I was like, right, how can I spike this as much as possible? Like, how can I sort of PB in terms of my blood glucose? But for me, it wasn't necessarily, taking it very high, because if you have a big meal, especially my post-workout meal with, the shake and the cereal, it spikes it massively. But it's more, how quickly does it recover? So it's not like spiking and staying at that level. It spikes obviously because you've had a large amount of glucose or whatever it is, and then taking it back down to your normal baseline level. So that would be cool. I mean, I wouldn't straight off the bat recommend anybody going in with that, but it is a different type of wearable tech, and if it is something that it was irritating for me because of where it was, because it was pretty much in my tricep, and I had to wear it the entire time. But if there is another way to track it, then that would be great. A couple of things probably we should touch on, what to look for and what data you should track, because I know they all sort of have generic ones, and then some of them will track different things based on what it's for. We should probably start with Whoop, because I feel like we're still waiting on the sponsorship. They will tweet back if you mention them, but they will never tweet back in terms of the affiliate link. Whoop is good. The reason that I got Whoop initially was because my Apple Watch battery life was brutal. And even I had a look earlier on at the different ones. So I had a look at Apple Watch, Whoop, Oura Ring, Fitbit, and Garmin. Most of them, the battery life is like between 5 and 9 days. The battery life of Apple Watch is up to 18 hours. But if you use it at all, that obviously drops. So I wasn't ever able to wear it for sleep. So I wasn't able to track my sleep. So that's why I moved on to Whoop. So Whoop will obviously track your sleep. It will track your rest and heart rate. It will track your heart rate variability. It has a respiratory tracker as well, which I think is a new function. And then obviously it gives you back information based on recovery and strain throughout the day. So it uses your body's metrics, and it obviously learns about you as you go, and then that's how it sort of gives you those numbers. Rest and heart rate is obviously what your heart rate is at rest. Heart rate variability is, the best way I can describe it is the difference in time between beats of your heart. And the way that I would sort of analyze both of those is, you want your rest and heart rate to be as low as possible to an extent, and you want your heart rate variability to be as high as possible. So from a stress management perspective, if I'm looking at your check-in sheet tomorrow and I see that, rest and heart rate started to go up and heart rate variability started to come down, then that's whenever we need to go, okay, right, is there too much stress on the system here? Is there too much stress in your body? Do we need to pull back on something, or what is the story? Rest and heart rate's a good metric as well for talking about fitness levels. And I know Thomas has been in the group being like, Usain Bolt, his rest and heart rate was 33 when he won the gold medal. Mine's at 36. I'm like, are you going for the Olympics that I don't know about? But, from a fitness perspective, it's a good marker on, how quick you can recover and things like that. So 9 times out of 10, the majority of the trackers are going to track both heart rate variability and rest and heart rate, if not definitely rest and heart rate.
Yeah, and it's important to understand that those are key indicators of recovery. There's a lot of scientific studies that show heart rate variability is a sign of stressors on your body, and is your body going through certain types of things, right? Respiratory rate is a good indication of potentially COVID infections. They've done predictive analysis around that. So for me, just as an example, my heart rate variability average is around 71, and my resting heart rate is around 45. My respiratory rate is about 16. So that's kind of like my baseline that I look at from when I'm recovered. And, if I'm up or down from that, I can kind of make decisions on whether or not I'm good or not, and also how I feel. So, it's a good way of kind of baselining, hey, are we recovered? Are we not recovered? Should I take it kind of easy today? Should I just destroy myself and go crazy, which I'm just going to do anyway, even regardless of what it says? Or am I going to listen to my body and say, hey, today's a day that I need a rest day? And I feel, by the way, like I've grown a lot on that. They ask for 2 days of rest, knowing that I need 2 days of rest. Normally, I just would have been like, I'm actually, my body says I need rest. I'm gonna do 2 additional Orange Theories in one day just to make sure that my body knows that I control it. But
I think it's actually a good point to note whenever you were mentioning this earlier on, that as we go through the process, as you build muscle, the more muscle mass you have, the more recovery your body needs. Do you know what I mean? So if you think of it, this is why I always say at the start, like full body workouts are good, because muscle mass is generally smaller, so you recover easily, but not easily, but easier for sure. But as you grow and as your muscles develop, the more muscle mass there is, the more that you need to allow them to recover. So that could be something that you're facing at the minute as well. You know, obviously the muscle mass has increased massively over the past year, so your body actually needs more time to recover, and that's why you're able to note, instead of just going back to send me photos of your dumbbells whenever you're sad because you're on a rest day. But yes, so the heart rate variability, rest and heart rate, yeah. And I think, you know, as you said, you know your baseline. So if we see something skewed, then that's whenever we can start to address it. And yes, the respiratory one, I'm pretty sure it was just brought in and around the time that the COVID, and that was obviously a good sort of metric to be like, okay, well, maybe I need to get this checked out. But knowing those baselines and knowing where you're at is, you know, it's good to sort of go, okay, right, well, this data is slightly off. And that's the benefit of having the data in the first place. It's the same as the benefit of tracking your calories and looking at them and go, right, okay, well, this is off, or this isn't moving in the way that I want to. And it's having the data and knowing what to actually do with it, instead of just tracking all these numbers and being like, okay, well, it was this day and it was this the next day. I know there was a bit of chat going on in the client group in terms of like, you know, why is Thomas so low and like where it should be. I generally think, you know, if you're in the early 50s in your resting heart rate, that's generally a good place to be. Now, lower is not an issue. But, you know, in terms of like a baseline or a goal to get between that sort of 50 and 55 mark is pretty decent in terms of a fitness level.
Yeah, it's incredible to see where my resting heart rate and heart rate variability and all those have come, and how fast I can recover. You know, there's something called DOMS, which is basically, you know, how you feel after a workout. If you're just starting to work out and you let's just say, you know, experience some extreme soreness where you can barely get the stairs or walk and you're just, you know, getting killed, that will fade over time, by the way. You know, the more that your muscles get used to working out, the less sore you are. So I don't actually get sore really anymore, but I can tell that my muscles are weak. Wait until
I change your training plan.
You keep teasing this one. I'm excited about it. I can't wait. Speaking of which, like yesterday, I was in a crunch for time. Not to derail this, but I was in a crunch for time, and I only had an hour to do my workout. Which, you know, what I found is that I could definitely use like a timer. And I think I'm going to build a timer like on my wall or something like that that shows the time that I need to rest in between. Because I did the full Nippard workout yesterday in like 48 minutes without an issue, and did everything, you know, like legit, you know, heavy and everything else. So normally it would take me like an hour and 15 minutes. So that was kind of cool to go through. But, you know, going back to the wearables, you know, for me, I think why I decided to choose Whoop, and any of them are going to be fine that fits the way that you're doing things, right? If you're more cardio centric or things like that, you know, a Garmin or Fitbit may be, you know, more in line with that. I mean, even though Whoop is very much cardio driven as well, it's really what your preference is. I do not like the Apple Watch, and I do not like the Android Wear because of the battery life. If you're only getting a day or two,
I don't know
it's
how
horrible.
Like 18. I'm like, how can the Garmin be 9 days battery life?
Yeah,
Apple, like, it frustrates me no end, honestly.
It's awful, and you need to have the wearables on when you're sleeping. You want to measure how your sleep is going and how well you're doing over there, and you also want to track when you wake up and what your, you know, heart rate is throughout the day. So, you know, what I really like about Whoop is, you know, the Whoop band itself you wear, it's, you know, it's very small, very low profile, but the charging station is actually a battery that just slides over the top, so you don't have to take off the Whoop device, you know, and lose your activity or tracking for that time period as you're charging the device itself. And it has like a, you know, 10 day battery life. The new Whoop band is coming out, which, by the way, I just got the update. It's supposed to ship any day now. Woohoo! So
I haven't even received an email from them. But I was actually reading that it is, so I had pulled up earlier on, it's actually 33% smaller than the current, the 3.0. But definitely the battery thing that you're talking about, that was a big draw for me as well, because you don't actually have to take it off. You just charge the battery pack and then you wear it on. And even with the battery pack on, like, yes, it's slightly bigger, but it's not that intrusive. Do you know what I mean? If you compare your Whip with the battery pack on to the size of your Garmin watch, your Garmin's still bigger. So I definitely think, you know, having that you don't ever have to take it off is definitely, if you're obsessed with data, then, you know, it's ideal.
Yeah, and the new Whoop 4, we call it the Whoop 4.0, has brand new sensors. They're supposed to be the most accurate sensors on the market today. They added the pulse oximeters for their what's called the SpO2 for oxygen levels, which is a good barometric on kind of like, you know, how you're doing from a overall sleep, breathing, all that good stuff, blood oxygen saturation. So that's a good benchmark metrics. A lot of the newer Garmin's, things like that, have SpO2 and have had it for a while. Same thing for Fitbit. So there's you know, again, the technology itself is irrelevant. I've had Fitbit, I've had Garmin, I've had Android Wear, I've had Apple Watch, I've had Whoop. The only one I haven't had is the Oura Ring. I just don't like having a ring on at all times, especially when I'm lifting. I feel like it's just like it'd be like a distraction for me. So you know, I just went to Whoop and I really enjoy it. I like the leaderboards, you know, seeing where I'm at today, always beating Chris no matter what. You know, so it's just one of those things where
this still makes me laugh. It's like, you know, you could be number 205 on the leaderboard and he's number 206 and you're like, I still beat him.
I'm good.
I was like, there's 200 people above me. Who cares?
Doesn't matter. It just be Chris. That's all that matters. Just be Chris.
Yeah.
But you know, I think the wearables, you know, are a great addition to the data that you're inputting to understand your body, right? But again, you know, you caveated it with, Ben, which is, you know, listen to your body too. And there's one thing to understand. You know, I get all the time, you know, I get people that'll message me on social media and be like, you need to take a rest. You need to take a break. Well, listen, you know, I know when I need to take a break. I know when I'm pushing myself too hard. Like, you know, the overtraining aspect of things is such a, I think, crutch that people use to not push themselves harder. They're like, oh, I worked out once, so, you know, I need to take 2 days off. Well, no, you don't. Your body can handle much more than that. There's actually a good breakdown of what constitutes overtraining. And believe it or not, our bodies are capable of much, much more than we think that they are in our minds. There's a good video from Jeff Nippard, who, if you haven't checked out Jeff Nippard, he's a bodybuilder, professional trainer, you know, just you know, his videos are great. He basically breaks down the science of a lot of the different aspects around, you know, hypertrophy and best techniques and form and things like that. And it's how to maximize gains and not overtrain. And he goes into the overtraining science. And truth be told, when people are saying, hey, don't overtrain, listen, I'm not overtraining. Like, our bodies are capable of much more than we think that they are. You know, it's a matter of listening to yourself and understanding what you put your body through and when you need to actually do recovery. And I think that's the thing that, you know, a lot of people don't recognize or understand, is that they assume, well, hey, I ran today, so therefore I shouldn't, you know, lift in the afternoon or evening. Well, you can absolutely. Now, you know, there's definitely some things around, if you're doing cardio, especially high intensity interval training, you should probably wait, you know, anywhere between 5 to 8 hours before you actually do your lift, because it's going to impact your lift performance from a glycogen store perspective. So you want to recover your glycogen stores so that you have the energy to actually maximize your weight training. But, you know, at the end of the day, your body's recovered from that cardio session that you did. Then you go and do a lift. Now, does that mean you want to lift 6 times a day? No, that's probably not the right thing to do. But it's very difficult to actually overtrain. But there are times you need to just rest and take a break.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between, you know, feeling DOMS, as you said, and, you know, on a like central nervous system, like taxing that. Like, there's a difference between your biceps being sore because you trained them and your body actually being like, I can't, you know. And if you've ever been there, you will know exactly, you know, what that's like. And I think I said this to you before, you know, I remember there was sets that I would have done, you know, really heavy rack pulls or really heavy RDLs. Like, that taxes your body in a totally different way. Like, that is your central nervous system, and it's beyond just the muscle soreness whenever you get up to like a super, super high weight. And, you know, there's definitely some sort of merit in the way you split your training and sort of looking at the different body parts that you train, and, you know, is it lower back loading, and is there days to sort of take off in between that and splitting that the right way. So there are ways that you can avoid, you know, hitting the same muscle groups frequently, also avoid overtraining. But, you know, as you said, from an overtraining perspective, I don't think I've ever been in the situation where I've overtrained. And, you know, I've been in the situation where I was training 6 days a week and I was doing, you know, 45 to 60 minutes cardio every morning, and it was shit and I was miserable. But I don't think I was in the place that I overtrained. And if you think of like elite athletes, you know, what they do, train, you know, 2 or 3 times a day, it's like, you know, you're not anywhere close to that, basically.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. It's one of those things where, you know, overtraining is just, you know, used as a, hey, this is how I feel.
It's another fucking excuse. Come on, just say it.
It's another excuse. It's another excuse. You know, and And listen, I can appreciate people providing their perspectives and trying to share their experiences, but your body's not mine and mine is not yours. And we need to make our own decisions on what what is overtraining and what is not. It's not for somebody else to make a decision of, oh, hey, I saw you were working out this morning, you're working in this evening, you're overtraining yourself and you're going to hurt yourself. Well, that's not true. I've been doing this for over a year and some change. And you know what? I've been very injury prone. Now, I made that one time where I accidentally stepped off doing split squats and I rolled my ankle. That's a different story. That was just stupidity. But that
was stupidity, not overtraining.
It was stupidity, not overtraining, right? Everything that we do is done safely. It's done to optimize our performance. It's done to push ourselves harder, and it's done to understand that today is our weakest form that we're ever going to be, because tomorrow we're going to be stronger. And I think that's the mindset that you have to go into this with is that, and again, for folks that are just starting out, I'm not saying you need to wreck and destroy yourself every single day. That's something that is a choice for you and how you want to grow and progress in your fitness journey, right? For me, I want to get big, right? Jacked AF, right? So
trademark.
I'm going to continue trademark. I want to continue to grow my muscles as big as I can. Stay lean as I possibly can. Not be a dude with the big gut, and that's my goals, right? But that might not be yours. So, when you're talking about overtraining and you're talking about the data that you're using from these wearable devices, I wear two devices. I actually have my Whoop band. Actually, and if I'm at Orange Theory, I'm wearing 3 devices, which is ridiculous. But I have my Garmin device, which I like my Garmin because it's a nice smartwatch. The battery life on this is ridiculous. This is the Garmin Tactics Delta. And it's got a huge watch face on it. It's like kind of like a covert special ops military, I'm obviously, military, this one, military. And so, it's kind of a cool, tactical watch, but it's a smart watch. It lasts like 9 or 10 days. It'll track, my heart rate. It'll track HRV. It'll track, a bunch of other stuff. The biggest thing that I use it for is Garmin's very good at steps. So I like tracking it for my steps because Whoop still doesn't track steps. Like if they could just get the steps, I literally could just ditch this thing, even though I do like the smartwatch features of it. But I'm like, freaking track steps, Whoop, please. I know it's like counterintuitive and you don't look at it as a fitness tracking data science thing or whatever. Just put the damn steps in there, please. But I wear both of them to track steps, and then Whoop, for the data analytics side. Literally all I use my Garmin for is steps and notifications for when I'm in meetings. Take a look at, hey, someone shot me a text message or I'm getting a call. Let's take a look at that really quick. It's just a quick hit thing. For my other wearable that I wear at Orange Theory has a band that you wear around your either your biceps or your chest. You can wear different locations, but it tracks your heart rate basically and your calorie burn. So when I'm in class, it'll directly portray to the system that I'm on. So if I'm like on a treadmill, it'll actually show, hey, I'm in their orange zone or their green zone or their red zone based on what your resting heart rate is and then based on where you're at. So I know like, hey, I'm in the red zone right now, in this base pace, which is just your normal running pace. I need to kind of chill out a little bit to get my rate down a little bit so I can push myself again because it's HIIT training. So, that elevation and increase, it's again, ways of optimizing how you're doing your training and performance. And one thing I'll say about Whoop is that, we're obviously very big on resistance training here. And I think resistance training is extremely important. It's probably the most fundamental important thing you can do for building muscle mass and getting that figure that you want. And just from a health benefits perspective. But, resistance training doesn't necessarily equate to your real strain that they consider as you're going through, because Whoop is predominantly heart rate based. Okay. So, if you're doing weight training, it's very different from, running or doing jumping jacks or things of that effect. Your heart rate isn't going to go up as much. So your strain level is not a great direct representation. They even say that on the Whoop site. It's like, hey, you might be kicking your ass at the gym lifting weights, but you may only have like an 8 strain or a 7 strain. Whereas if you go and you ride a bike, those effing bikers, man, they're always beating me. Cyclists, it's just cycling on there. I'm like, oh, that's cheating. They'll have like a 19 strain, right? And so like I just got done killing myself at HIIT training for an hour. I burn 800 calories, but this cyclist that cycle for 30 minutes gets a 19 strain. So, it's just how the heart rate stuff and how they calculate things are. But just know that you're not going to get like a massive, huge strain. It doesn't mean that you're not kicking your ass at the gym. It just means that hey, you're not going to get your heart rate up as much as you would from something cardio wise.
Yeah, I think if you think about weight training, there's maybe your set lasts, 45 to 60 seconds, and then you have that 60 to 90 second rest. So in that rest period, the idea is to get your heart rate back down. So yes, there will be a lot of spikes in your heart rate, but it's not consistently at a high level. So you're talking about cyclists, their heart rate's elevated for an extended period of time. And that's why they get, that sort of higher strain. I think sort of a point to note is, all these trackers have pros. In my opinion, each one of them has something that they could definitely improve on. There's not one, from my perspective, that ticks all the boxes. Like I said, originally I had Apple Watch. I literally just used it to track steps. I did connect it to get the resting heart rate and heart rate variability. But obviously, whenever I got a bit more into it and wanted to track sleep, that's why I moved to the Whoop. Now, it was great. It tracked the resting heart rate variability, strain, recovery, sleep, everything, but it didn't track my steps. And I think, I can't speak for Whoop, but I think the people that they direct it to is more athletes, and it's more of a higher level athlete thing who probably don't give a shit about how many steps that they track, which is fair enough. So the reason that I was wearing the Whoop and the Apple Watch because I wanted to track my steps, and then it started doing my head in wearing both of them, so I just sacked them both off, and that's when I moved to Oura Ring. Now, Oura Ring, I can't fault in any way, except for the fact that you have to take it off whenever you're doing. You don't have to, but I mean, I'm very conscious of it will get wrecked and the potential that I could rip my finger off if I do something wrong. So I do take it off, but I don't. So then I can't use it to track, my heart rate or my resting heart rate or my heart rate variability during the workout. Aside from that, it's great. The charging thing just sits here in front of me. I literally will charge it. I don't know, obviously not everybody's watching YouTube, but it sits right in front of me. So if I'm stood here, I'll charge it for half an hour. I'm not actually doing anything, so I'm not really missing out on that much data. And that's the sort of experience that I've had with all three. Now, eventually, whenever I get my Whoop, I will wear Oura and Whoop together, because I think it's two devices, but it's not one on each wrist, so I don't look, suspect. But yeah, that's my experience from those three. I know that you've used others and the pros and cons of that. I think the point of the Garmin, I was looking at them earlier on. Number one, cool. But number two, it's an actual watch as well. Do you know what I mean? So if you want to check the time, you have that function. I didn't actually like the notifications function on the Apple Watch because I felt like it was distracting. Obviously you can turn all these things off, so it's fine. But my question is, with the Garmin, do you wear it in bed? Like, do you track your step, or is it too big, like lights up, like it would do my head in, I think, on that front?
I take it off at night, but I keep my Whoop on at night, and I take my Garmin off. And there's no reason for me, if I was tracking like my sleep patterns and stuff like that with my Garmin, I think I would keep it on. But it is, it's a very big fascia on it, and it's a big bulky watch, which is kind of like a gaudy, nice little watch. I like the look of it. So, I think for nighttime, I wouldn't probably think it would be that comfortable. But I keep my Whoop on, and then I take my Garmin off and put it there at night, so that I don't, it doesn't bother me or distract me.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair enough. So obviously you have experience with Fitbit and Garmin as well. So if you want to talk about the pros and cons that you find of those, because people will go, well, what's the best one? And in my opinion, it's the one that, number one, you like the look of, I guess, the most, or that you can commit to wearing, sort of long term, and it gives you the data that you need. There's none of them, in my opinion, that are any better than the other. And, is it a case of you have done exactly 11,432 steps? Probably not. But with any of them, the majority of the data is consistently inconsistent. So if you're tracking it from the same device, then if you're getting the same sort of readings or one's way off, then you'll know. So I think that's a good point to note as well. Another thing, actually, just while it's in my head, I know that a lot of the guys who have standing desks and have treadmills are raging because the steps aren't being tracked properly. And I think that's because a lot of the devices use GPS to track your steps. So I know that the Garmin definitely does. I know that the Apple Watch definitely does, and I'm 99% sure that the Fitbit does as well. So not only does it use the motion of your body whenever you're moving, but it also uses GPS to see, where that you're going. So if I'm stood here now on a standing desk, because my wrist is sat on the desk, it's obviously not moving, so it's not picking up that data, and I'm not actually going anywhere. So that is definitely a frustration that I see. And I know that the way to overcome it is wear it on your ankle, but then you look like you're, got a tag on, and you're not allowed to leave the house.
Yeah, the way that I fix that is I'll take the Garmin and I'll attach it to my shoe strings or whatever, and kind of hook it in there onto my shoe, because it's movement based too. So it's so I will be able to track my steps pretty well on the because I have a standing desk and a walking treadmill, so that'll help out a lot from that side. For me, I really try. Excuse me. In the summertime, that Orange Theory one, I'm gonna need a nap later today. The summertime, I really try to get outside to get my walks in. There's a park here that I really like going to. It's got a big lake and just beautiful scenery, and it's like off in the woods. There's usually nobody there, so I get my steps in there. But in the wintertime, I get my steps in as I'm working or things like that. And I noticed that my if I'm typing or whatever, it doesn't have the movement of walking, so it doesn't actually track those. So then I'll put it onto the shoe to kind of fix that out. So for me, from a wearable perspective, I think a lot of it comes down to what you perceive as accuracy, what you think is good from a UI perspective, and how you get the data. I really dislike Garmin's interface. I think it's very antiquated and old. They haven't really, it's confusing where everything's at. There is a lot of data in there, but it's like all structured in a very unusual way. I think if you look at what Fitbit has done, what Whoop has done, what Amazon Halo, for example, has done, the interfaces are very simple to go through, very easy to use, very click-through friendly. So I don't want to have to sit through like 17 nested menus to get to, the data that I want to be able to do it. And I actually think, like, if you look at like Android Wear and what Apple Watch does, I think they're very confusing as well. So I think, if I had to say from a UI perspective, I would say, Whoop or Fitbit or Amazon Halo are all good ones to kind of take a peek at from a UI perspective that keeps it easy and simple for you to kind of track day in and day out.
The Aura as well. I would say the same. The functionality of the app and everything that you do, it's great. It's really easy to use. You just literally swipe through everything, and you can literally, like, if I think of it from the perspective of how I have to fill the check-in sheet, it's easy to go to the day and then go, you swipe through sleep, you swipe through rest and heart rate, you swipe through heart rate variability, and you're not like all over the place trying to look at it. So yeah, I would definitely say that the Aura Ring has the good technology on the software side.
Yeah, and if you're one of those folks that really likes getting down to like the nitty-gritties and like heavy customizations and editing and like making your own displays and things like that, Garmin has is very flexible in that front. So if you're into like the crazy complex stuff, Garmin is definitely a good one for that. Again, I have my Garmin, I like it. I basically, again, like all I use it for is I have the app, I open it up, I check my steps, and that's it. And then I use my notifications and messages on that. So it's just kind of the concept there.
Yeah, I think as well a good point to note is probably affordability too. So I had a look, the difference between the costing of each. One thing that I liked about Whoop that I think would appeal to a lot of people is that you can pay it monthly. So you can just pay a monthly subscription, so you don't have that initial upfront payment. One thing that I did notice between the majority of them, a lot of them are the same in pounds as they are in dollars. So I mean, technically in my head that means that you get them cheaper, but they are in and around the same. Obviously there's different specs, you can go right up, but for the Apple Watch, for the Oura Ring, and for the Garmin, you can get them all in and around, I think it was like the base one's like $350-400 or thereabouts. Now obviously with the Apple Watch, you can get the fucking Hermes strap and it'll cost you fucking 10 grand or something ridiculous. And you can spec it in different ways, but from a baseline perspective, they seem to be similar. I know that Fitbit have different options based on, the functionality that it has. So, whether it's just you just have the display and it'll literally just tell you steps, or whether I think it's the Versa that looks a bit more square and has an actual screen. So they have a lot to cater to different people. And I think you can probably pick one of those up for probably about $100. So again, you need to sort of think of affordability side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And, at the end of the day, if the data that you're getting is what you want, then you're getting what you need to out of that tracker, right? And again, the data is only as good as you feel, right? And so if one thing I will say about this, by the way, it's really interesting. We didn't hit this. I think we hit on a previous podcast, but the impact of alcohol on your stats is ridiculous. Like you'll be at a 98% recovery. It's the best day you've ever had. And then you drink like 4 things of hard seltzers, your recovery would be like 3% the next day. It jacks your body up beyond belief. Alcohol is so bad from a fitness perspective. It's not even funny. It's I like that actually got me to quit drinking completely. Like I saw, no, rephrase that. I still have like some hard seltzers here and there, but it's rare. Like, I mean, we're talking maybe once a month, and it's like 2 hard seltzers because I don't want my recovery to dip below like 40%. So if I have 3 hard seltzers, I'm looking at like 25% recovery. If I have 4 hard seltzers, I'm looking like sub 10% recoveries. If I have any more than that, it's just like F it, I'm going negative today, So,
I think the lowest recovery that I ever had on was 3%, and it was a heavy night's drinking the night before. But I think, again, that's a good point to note, that if you're not tracking this data or information, you don't really know the effects that these things have on your body. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could go out and go, okay, you've got a hangover and whatever else, but looking at the data and look at the information, like, how is this actually affecting my body, my performance, everything that sort of comes along with that. So it's just, again, another benefit of having the data.
One thing I noticed too is if I do the exact same things for 2 days in a row, right? And so if I do, like, let's just say I do orange steer in the morning and I do a heavy lift in the afternoon, and I don't do a sauna, and if I do a orange steer in the morning and a heavy lift in the afternoon and I do a sauna, my recovery is substantially better on the sauna days than not, which is really interesting statistic. So, there are certain things you can do to impact your recovery. Cryogenic chambers or cold water treatments, things, taking cold showers has a big impact on recovery. Just putting your hands in some cold gloves, that are just, sub room temperature, keeping them at like 60, degrees or 55 degrees or something like that. Putting your hands in there for a few minutes has actually a huge impact on recovery and cooling your body temperature down. So there are things you can do to recover faster and have better recovery. Now, I don't recommend hitting the sun up and drinking at the same time. It's probably not going to wash out. It's probably going to still be really bad for you. And it might pass out.
Balance to be like, well, if I drink 4 beers, but I spend 40 minutes in the sauna, I should be okay.
You might die. You might die of dehydration. Is the thing there. So
yeah.
No, I think for the tracking device stuff discussions, I think we hit the nail on the head with all of these. It's just, what's best for you, right?
Yeah. I think there's another point I would like to, I don't have any experience in this, obviously, because I'm not a female, but there are some. I think the Apple Watch and I think the Fitbit do have a menstrual cycle tracker, so they'll look at your heart rate, your temperature, things like that. So if that is obviously something you want to track, I know that there's some apps you can get for your phone, but obviously having the data of something that's actually attached, if that's something you struggle with or want to know a bit more information on, I know that Apple and Fitbit definitely do have that functionality. But again, like I said, it's not something that I track. So,
man, hey, that was another podcast in the bag.
Yeah, good.
It's great. Right, this is 9, right?
Yeah, it's our 10th episode, but it's episode 9.
Yeah, because we had the extra special video, the bonus video, right?
I didn't think it was extra special, like just because it was about you.
I mean, just because it was about me, it was extra special.
I actually said, I mentioned to Chris this week about getting them on, so that will be our next bonus one. And I think everybody needs to note that it will literally just be you guys taking a piss out of each other for probably an hour. Just to forewarn
them. So if you want to hear two grown men make fun of each other like they're 2 years old, that's going to be that podcast. So.
Yeah. And then we're going to start getting some other guests in. So obviously we talked about Mal and the TRT and stuff like that. So we'll get all those lined up for the coming weeks.
Awesome. Well, hey, appreciate everybody tuning in today to hear us and listen. And we're always, good for some feedback. So if you have, questions, we didn't hit a topic that you want to, or you have some feedback, please let us know. Check out wehack.health. Also check out our Discord server, which is always popping. We have a great positive community. So if you're just getting started, you're already established, help motivate others, help motivate yourself. It's a great community that we're all really trying to share with one another. And the hashtag wehackhealth on Twitter and Instagram, all good stuff that, we're just trying to create a positive experience for people trying to change their lives and live longer and get stronger and feel more confident about themselves. So
it's a movement. You said in a voice note the other day, it's like, it's a movement. I'm on board with that. And as well, if you enjoy what we're saying, share it with someone, because I'm a big, I'll share podcasts all day long, and, you and I do, and I'll share it in the group, and that one that I listened to, yesterday. If you enjoy it and think other people will benefit from it, then please do share, because it helps us and it ultimately will help them. Catch you next week.
I'll be here. You're gonna be in Brussels, right? On Wednesday?
No, Dublin.
I don't know. Whatever. Aren't they the same location?
not even close. No, I'll be in Dublin next week, but we'll have the episode recorded. I'm actually getting my tattoo finished. For full disclosure, I'm getting my tattoo finished. Yeah, so I'll be in a lot of pain. Actually, be
That's
interesting
awesome.
to see how my heart rate and my resting heart rate and heart rate probably is.
Does
So I'll get my Oura
tattoos have
ring.
the same effect as alcohol? You know,
I'll make sure that I wear my Oura ring on that day to get the data from that, because that'll be cool.
it's gonna say workout detected, and it's gonna be like a 30 strain that you've never seen before.
10 hours long. Are you okay? Like checking in with me. But yeah, I'll wear
I
that.
died. Yeah.
All right, cool. Catch you later.
See you, everybody.